Welcome to another episode of our Three Strands podcast. First episode in 2023. Let's go. This is a new episode, 2023, January. Stoked for it. So, welcome to another episode. And as you can tell, I am riding solo on this one. Usually, I have Jana or another guest with us on the podcast. But today is just me. It's just me, Josh. So don't tune out just yet. At least give me a chance. I know it's just me running solo, but it's cool. Just give me a chance. Today we're going to talk about that word, hope. Hope is a very powerful emotion. And we're going to talk about what is our hope in, how can our hope fuel us in certain things. I'm not going to get too, sermon and preachy on you, but just a normal conversation about that word, hope. So stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about hope. So with that word hope, right? Hope is a very powerful thing, right? When you have hope in something, then it can be done, right? It can influence you in a great way. But I think when our hope lies in something that isn't so great, then it influences us in a terrible way, or in a way not necessarily terrible, but in a way that just harms us or hurts us. Man, I learned that lesson a couple years ago about having my hope solely in Jesus. And when it's not in Jesus, that's how I ended up hurting myself. I'm the type of person that I can either have. Hold on, guys, I got to burp. Oh, that was weak. Sorry. Ooh, double take. I'm the kind of person that can either gain hope really, really quickly and fast, or lose hope really, really quickly and fast. Like I remember going through school, middle school, high school, college. I was never great with school. I dropped out, failed classes, and I would lose hope very quickly. Hold on. I don't know why, dude. Those protein shakes get you. I guess they get the burps. But I can lose my hope very, very quickly, especially in school. Like starting off the semester or the class, like you want to start strong, you want to start good. And like the first two times I would like study, then like get a bad grade, I'd be like, this is dumb. I would just lose hope. Like I wouldn't even fight for a better grade. I wouldn't study harder. I just thought like, all right, I give up. And I would lose hope very, very quickly with school, with classes. On the reverse side, I would gain hope very, very quickly. I'll be vulnerable with you guys with relationships. Now, I remember I would always get hurt in any type of, like I would hurt myself. I do it to myself. But like going through that talking stage, like I mean, we've all been there, right? You see somebody, you see a guy, you see a girl, you're like, hey, I want to talk to them, and you go through that talking stage, and like it doesn't work out or whatever it may be, and you're like, man, like I had my hopes up for that. Like I hoped it was going to work out, and I remember like a couple years ago, I'd be like, man, why do I keep getting hurt about this? Like it's not even that deep. It's just talking. Like it's not that serious. So why do I keep getting hurt? And it's because I always had my hope in it working out. And I learned that lesson probably like 2 years ago of not having my hope in a certain person or potential relationship. This way, if it doesn't work out, my hope was never in it, which stopped me from getting hurt. So I remember there's this old song called White Flag by Chris Tomlin and Passion. This is like throwback to 2011. And it talks about surrendering and we raising our white flag. That white flag is a symbol of surrender, like in war when two sides are fighting each other and they want to have like a chill moment or truce. They would wave a white flag to surrender. So I remember I still have it in my room today. I cut out a white T-shirt and wrote the word hope with a black Sharpie and nailed it to my wall. And it's still up there. That's probably like 2 years ago. And it was just my daily reminder to always surrender my own personal hope in a person, in a relationship, in a class for only Jesus. Because I get caught up in those moments so easily. Like, man, you get caught up in life. You get caught up in things like, all right, this is what's next. My hope is in me getting this degree or this relationship or this job status or financial class or moving out. Like, we get our hopes and all these things. But that white flag is just my reminder, like, hey, no, I'm going to surrender this. And I'm going to have my hope solely in Jesus. And this is why hope is so important. I'm trying not to get too preachy, but it's so, so crucial on why having our hope in Jesus is so important. So I think a lot of times we like to dwell. Like we like to dwell in the past and dwell in our feelings. Like generations, like, hey, we always say, like, hey, I'm in my feelings right now. Then we bump some music, we go on a late night car ride, and we just feel those emotions and that sad mood and just dwell in that. Like we dwell in the past when things didn't work out, when life doesn't work out, when school doesn't work out, when jobs doesn't work out, whatever it is. We dwell in that. Like we sit in the past and we're like, man, like this just didn't work. Like this thing didn't work out, and we start to feel sad, and then We tell our friends we're in our feelings, and we throw on some Drake. And like we just sit in that zone. We dwell in that. And I think that's where Satan wants us to dwell in. Like the devil wants us to dwell in our feelings and dwell in the past and dwell in that sadness. Like Satan wants us to bump that sad music and go on those late night car. I'm not saying you're gonna go to hell for that, but I'm saying that's what Satan wants. Because if we continue to dwell in the past, then that starts to take away our hope for the future, right? If I were to apply this to my life and for you guys, right, with school, my example was school, like dwelling in the past of like, hey, I've already failed these classes. It doesn't work. It's not going to work out. I've dropped out. I failed. I've summer school. I've done it all. So that took away my hope for the future of any type of degree or certificate or anything like that, solely because I would dwell in those moments of when I failed. And I think that's what Satan wants, man. And this is why. This is a little Bible nug for you. It could be a Bible chicken strip if you want it to be, but it's just a little nug for you. So don't get too crazy. This is Hebrews chapter 11. This is defining the word faith. So Hebrews 11 defines what faith is for us. This is chapter 11, verse 1. And this is what Hebrews says about it. It says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So faith is the assurance of things hoped for. So there's that word hope again. So faith is the assurance of things that are hoped for. So if we're hoping for things, like when we pray, Jesus tells us throughout the Gospels, like, pray with faith. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain, right? We're praying and hoping. There's that word hope. We're hoping that God comes through with us. We're hoping Jesus hears our prayers. We're hoping God, can open doors for our life. Like we hope these things. But if Satan can take away our hope, then we start to doubt our faith, right? So that's why I think Satan wants us to dwell in that past and feeling so much. Like all those moments when we failed and stuff didn't work out and we're just sad and we're in our mood and we got dumped or we got broken up with, like, and we sit in those feelings. Or even like from a spiritual level, like God didn't come through this one time or he didn't answer this prayer right then when you wanted it to, and all these things. Satan wants us to sit in that emotion and dwell in it because it takes away our hope for the future and our hope for like God to continue to do what God does. And if Satan can take away our hope for that future, then we start to doubt our faith. So that's why I think it's so crucial with that word hope. And it's so influential to us because we could throw our hope in anything at any second. Right? Whether if it's relationships, like we'll meet somebody and we'll start planning the wedding the next day. We'll get a job and we're ready to move out in a second and pay off all, like our hope in our generation, like we are so easily persuaded into things with hope. Like we see one opportunity or one thing, we're ready to dive in head first. And it's not good for us, man. Unless it's in Jesus, then it's not going to work out because the world can take it. Like if the world can provide this thing that we are hoped in, that we have our hope. I don't know if you can be hoped into something. That's bad grammar. I told you guys school, I failed. But if the world can provide things for us to have our hope in, that means the world can take it. The world can take that relationship. The world isn't Satan. The job, the relationship status, the financial status, the moving out and then moving back in with your parents. Like the world can take it. If the world can give it to you, the world can take it from you. But if God gives it to you, God's not going to take it from you. So I think it's a great reminder and so important to not dwell in the past. I think Isaiah 43 has something to say about it. Another Bible nug. Let's see how fast I can flip there. Might have to edit this. You guys want some Bible flipping ASMR? There you go. This is what Isaiah 43 says about sitting in the past. My dog Isaiah, homeboy. He says, this is what God says. He's speaking right here. And he says this, Isaiah 43, verse 18. Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of the old. So he's saying don't even remember like the things of the old. Then God says, verse 19, behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and a river in the desert. Like God says in Isaiah 43, 18 and 19, like, hey, remember not the former things. Like, don't remember the things of the old. Like, don't dwell in that. Like, God, I'm doing a new thing. Like, he's going to make it, like, if sometimes our life feels like a desert and it's plain and it's dry and we lose hope and we're like, man, this is dumb. I'm tired. I quit. I give up. God's like, hey, that desert you're in, I'm going to make a river in it. And if you think of a desert, right? Desert is dry, it's sandy, there's no water. So putting a river through a desert, like that's a miracle. And that's what God does, man, with our hope. Like, hey, don't dwell in the past and dwell on those feelings and things that just made you sad and upset and sitting in that. But if you're going to dwell on something, dwell on Jesus and have your hope in Jesus. So this way, when stuff comes and those opportunities arise, you're not going to dive in head first. First of all, right? We're going to slow down. We'll hit the brakes a little bit. We're not going to dive in head first. But our hope is going to be in Jesus through those things. So if it doesn't work out, or if it does, it won't change your faith. It won't change what you hoped for because you placed your hope in Jesus. So if that relationship doesn't work out, that job doesn't work out, the school doesn't work out, the friendship doesn't work out, if moving out and then moving back in doesn't work out, whatever it is, if it doesn't work out and our hope was never in it, or our hope was never the foundation of that opportunity, then if it gets taken away, our foundation is not shaken because our hope was in Jesus. So I think, man, with that word hope, super, super influential because it can cause us to dive in head first with anything we see as shiny and new. We're ready to rock and roll and go. But then if it doesn't work out, we're like, man, this is dumb. Like, God, why did you do this? Why did you allow this? Why'd you tell me to wait? Why'd you say no? And we start to blame God when it was really us putting our hope in things that wasn't Jesus. So if you're listening today and you're like, maybe you have been dwelling in the past, right? Maybe you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you're on a late night drive right now. I don't know. And you're dwelling in the past, like you're just in the, you got your Drake on, you're listening to, you're in your feelings, you got your in your feelings playlist, and you're like, I just want to sit in this mood and be sad. That's where depression lies, man. Like sometimes we do it to ourselves. Like sometimes we choose depression solely because we dwell in the past. Like we're choosing to be depressed by dwelling in things that make us sad. And then we blame other things and we blame people like, oh, it's not my fault I'm depressed. I was born that way. And I don't want to get into like the mental side of things, but just the simple choice of if you're going to dwell in this, you're choosing that, right? You're choosing to dwell in those things that are making you sad and dwelling in the past and the reason why things didn't work. And that's what Satan wants. Like Satan, he is a liar. This is the Bible, not my opinion. Bible backs it up. Satan's a liar, a deceiver. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So he wants to take away any reason for us to have any type of hope in the future. So Satan wants you to dwell in that past as long as possible. But I want to encourage you guys to hit the timeout button. And if you need to, man, make you a white flag and surrender the hope. Like I say, maybe, look, God, maybe you got to pray with God. If you want to make a white flag, make a white flag. But surrender the hope. Like if your hope is in anything else except Jesus, that foundation can be shaken. And it will be shaken. Because life happens, man. Life is life. Sometimes reality will just smack us in the face. But if our hope was never in life or reality or the things the world provides, then that foundation is not going to be shaken because our foundation was on the rock. Our hope was in the rock. So I want to encourage you guys with that, right? Let's put our hope in Jesus. Like, don't do what I did, right? I would either lose my hope very quickly or gain my hope very, very quickly. But neither one of those things was in Jesus. But then when I surrendered that hope for Jesus, then that's where the peace comes from, really. Like if you talk about Jesus as the Prince of Peace, God is the God of peace, gives us peace that surpasses all human understanding. Like that type of peace, love, joy, peace, the fruits of the Spirit, like that type of peace. A piece of that comes from having our hope in Jesus. Like I have a peace in knowing that if this job or school or relationship or friendship or moving out or whatever it is, paying off student loan, if there's anything that I could have my hope in, but I choose not to. I choose to put my hope in Jesus. Like I have a peace in knowing like, hey, I guess I'm not going to stress out about it. Like if it works, great. If it doesn't work, cool. Like it doesn't faze me because I never hoped in it to begin with. Like it was never the foundation of my hope. So that's where that peace can also come from. Like no stress, no anxiety of trying to freak out about all these decisions. Like, hey, do I do this? Do I do that? Should I make this move? Should I not do this? Do I need to get a new job? Do I need to quit? Do I need to fire? Do I need to cut some friends off? Like all these million thoughts that come into our brain of decisions we have to make. But just hitting the timeout button instead of dwelling on the future now and getting anxious about the future, now we're going to hit the timeout button and say, you know what? Timeout. My hope is in Jesus. Whether the outcome or whatever situation happens is not going to phase what my hope is in. And there's just a nice peace in knowing, like, hey, God's got this, right? My foundation of hope comes with a little bit of peace and a little bit of joy, knowing that no situation is going to phase what my hope is in. Cheers.